ISIS, majority of the recruitment that ISIS had all over the world was all online. It was never in person.
Yeah.
Where Al-Qaeda used to recruit people in person. When I talked in there in that interview, the Iranian and the Iraqi people were on my side. The governments were not on my side.
Because they knew that you spoke the truth.
That trainer, man, just kind of like woke something up inside of us.
Yeah.
That Vietnam veteran stood in there, older guy, and she woke something in there. He's like, if you guys are not going to take this seriously, they're going to eat you alive out there. So if you're going to come out, you better be good. And that's the truth. That's what really he laid down in there. We're feeding you well, we're training you, and if you're not going to come out to be that good, you're not going to survive. And the truth is, it kind of woke something inside of us.
Yeah.
Like, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Black Site Show. Oh man, our last episode was nuts. And
it really was.
A lot of people actually has been telling me they really love that story. A lot of people have been telling me like this was amazing. I got to listen to it. Great story. So how you been, brother?
Really good. I was thinking after we recorded the last episode, if you guys haven't heard episode 7, you need to go back and listen to it because this is a white man who was a veteran. Yeah. And he came back to the U.S. after his military service and wanted to kill a bunch of Muslims because he felt like all this hatred towards Muslims, and he actually converted. Yeah. And joined. His story is in the Tribeca Film Festival right now. It's incredible. It's a movie coming out called Stranger at the Gate. It's pretty amazing. And it kind of reminded me, I was raised Christian. Yeah. And there's a story in the Bible about Paul. Yeah. And he was on Paul was like a persecutor of Christians. Like he would literally kill Christians. Yeah. Right. And then he was on the road to Damascus. Literally, he was on his way to kill more Christians. Yeah. And some being, some might say it was God or Jesus, appeared to him and spoke to him. And he was blinded by this like light. And he wound up converting to Christianity. So he went from he actually went from killing Christians to now being like an apostle or like a missionary for Christianity. Wow. It was like almost parallel stories. It was incredible. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, if you have not listened to episode 7, go back and listen to it because it was really good. It is hot today, bro. A little bit. Yeah. It's not as bad as last week. It reminds me of Iraq. Pretty damn hot. Yeah. So today we're going to be interviewing you. Oh. So some people may know Hamody Jasim as the terrorist whisperer based on your book, which is also an Amazon movie, right? Yeah. Many of the listeners may have even watched the movie. Yeah, many people have. So I wanted to start out by saying Hamody Jasim is not your real name. Yeah. Tell us why you go by Hamody Jasim today. I think, when I first released the book back then in 2016, you actually, before publishing a book like that, you have, which most military authors have to submit the script to the Department of Security Review, to the Pentagon. And when you send it back then, there was a concern about the identity of people that were involved in my story. I mean, you kind of noticed the smallest rank is involved in my story. It was like a lieutenant colonel. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of people who are working as active duty, working in the government, intelligent operatives, members of the intelligence community. So they suggested that we do not use my name in particular, and they suggested that we protect the identity of one of the individuals. Mm-hmm. And we agreed and signed to make sure we don't, and you think about it because for me, it is a story that's page of history. It happened a long time ago, 15, 20 years ago. The Al-Qaeda fighters that I was fighting back in the day are probably not the same Al-Qaeda fighters today. Different people, but you got the Iraqi operatives who are still active. It's the same individuals you fought or you collected intelligence on back in the day are still more active. So you got to protect yourself. You got to really be prepared, and seeing how infiltrated America could be or any other country, that you got to protect yourself. You got to protect your identity because you do have members that are still living overseas. I still have members of my family that lives overseas, and I just had to really hide the identity, protect myself.
So you just kind of made up this name?
So actually, no, it's a nickname that I had when I was a kid. But down there, nobody.
What does Hamody mean?
So it's Hamody is like it's just a nickname.
Okay.
It's a real nickname. It has no meanings to it.
Okay.
But it's just a nickname. So
and how long have you gone by this name? Was it as soon as you moved to the U.S. or was it just when you released your documentary?
Honestly, as soon as I actually released my book, I had to like really go into create a different identity for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, we're gonna rewind this, but I just wanted people to know you go by this kind of stage name, right? Yeah. But you still have ties to the CIA database and all of this, right? So your life could actually be in danger, right? Because of all of the things that you've done to combat terrorism.
Yeah.
Right. I'm sure there is people that would love to take you out today. Do you get some kind of alerts or something like that when somebody searches for your real name?
I mean, you gotta be, so you actually have to check anybody you've been approached by. Mm-hmm. So an example, when you get approached by the press, you have to really know the individuals who are coming to your house to interview you, or they're meeting you in a different place, or you're going somewhere, or someone call you from a certain channel that you're going. I mean, as you've seen, I have done so many interviews.
Sure.
Right. Mm-hmm. And these interviews, every time someone approaches you in an interview, you have to know who they really are.
Sure.
And when you're someone in this position, you got to be aware of the history of how Al-Qaeda eliminates their enemies. Ahmad Shah Massoud was the famous Afghan resistant guy that fought the Taliban and fought the Soviets. Al-Qaeda assassinated him 2 days before 9/11. Mm-hmm. And the way they assassinated him, they sent 2 reporters, Western reporters. There was actually a member of Al-Qaeda that bombed the camera and got him. So when you talking about that, you have really to know. I mean, this is a skill set for any intelligent operative. You should be aware of that, especially if you're an intelligent asset. The difference is that intelligent assets are used to being in hostile environments. They're used to being among the enemy. They always have to carry these measures, protect themselves. You are the spy among the enemy. Uh-huh. You are going to have these skills to protect yourself. So in all honesty, you just have to protect yourself. You have to have a database, which is basically you have to actually access background checks to people knowing who they really are, right?
Great.
If someone with a 99 criminal records is approaching you for an interview, you got to know this person is definitely not interested in interviewing you.
Sure. So say that I approach you and I say I'm from something.com.
Yeah.
And I would like to interview you on my show or on my podcast. Yeah. Right. So you're probably going to ask for my information.
Yeah.
Right? And then you're going to run me through some kind of database to check and make sure that
you're a real human. You're registered under
Great.
To make sure you have a records of some sort.
Good.
I mean, not just that. You also have to start somewhere. You don't go just straight to the background check.
Sure.
I mean, the email they're sending you, where the email come from, what's the email is connected to. You do a research on the individual. There's a LinkedIn page or any professional page, and then you just match.
Yeah.
To see if that email actually, an email can come from anybody.
Right.
But you have to see if that email actually exists in the website, if that email is actually shared on the LinkedIn page. So there's a lot of steps you have to take before you really clear that person to meet with. I mean, look, I get emails from so-and-so. I'd like to interview. I'd like to do that. And you have to really go through a process to get to that person to really know who they really are.
Good.
And it makes you feel comfortable to really meeting somebody that you already know.
Yeah, because it could be someone coming after you.
Yeah, it could be somebody coming after you. They're not going to come after you like out of the blue, but you have to always be aware of surrounding. Unfortunately, when you piss a lot of people off that are really powerful, that are really bad, they're capable. Mm-hmm. They got crazy people. I mean, look, ISIS. Majority of the recruitment that ISIS had all over the world was all online. It was never in person.
Yeah.
Where Al-Qaeda used to recruit people in person. I mean, literally, they can find a crazy person in the United States and they can recruit them online. So the truth is that they might not really even send you someone who's a trained operative, but they may just send you a crazy guy who's willing to do a service for them.
Sure.
So you got to be careful of your surrounding, and you can never underestimate. You can never what I mean by underestimate is you just don't know who is who.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
me and you talked before about there is members of Al-Qaeda that lives in the same county that I am, who is a former Al-Qaeda operative, right?
Yeah.
That was incredible. Right? Yeah. There is a member of Al-Qaeda that lives in the same exact county that I live in. The difference is that person is white.
Yeah, so you would never suspect him, right?
That person is white.
But thankfully you have access to this information and you get alerts on this type of activity.
I mean, that just goes to show you that you can never, and that's how people, it's actually a lesson for people.
Yeah,
right?
You could bump into somebody at Walmart and that person could be working for ISIS and you wouldn't know.
And you wouldn't know. Yeah. But you could never also associate a certain race with ISIS, right?
Yeah.
Or Al-Qaeda or radical organization. So that's why it's kind of funny, right? I live in a very white majority county, right? Mm-hmm. And there is actually a member of Al-Qaeda, former member of Al-Qaeda that lives in my county. And there's me.
Right.
And the only difference between me and that person, one person worked for the country, for this country, and one person worked against
I bet you if this guy even knew that you were here, he would blow his mind. Because here he is, he's a former member of Al-Qaeda as a white guy, and you're living in the same county as him. He probably doesn't even know of that.
He probably doesn't know.
And you're responsible for like dozens of kills and captures of actual high-value terrorist targets.
Yeah, and I think it's awkward.
Yeah, it's incredible. Wow.
It's just really like, I think it's how would you really feel, right? But it just goes to show, I mean, look, this person, as far as I know, is no longer a member of Al-Qaeda. This person is actually trying to find a good reason to live. So I'm hopeful for that. I feel like, as long as this person has realized that he was wrong, and I do believe based on the reports that I saw, based on the information I was able to obtain, that the person actually realized he was wrong. Sure. He was in the wrong group and he was forced to it. Yeah. And you hear multiple stories of people really didn't have the choice to be members of Al-Qaeda or ISIS. Mm-hmm. They were kind of really led to it. And they were forced to it. They didn't have a choice, But, I mean, it's you really gotta always be. I mean, I'm very comfortable as you see me sometimes in public. Mm-hmm. I act normal. I don't act like like always watching my surrounding or be careful. I don't act that way. I'm actually very chill, very talkative. But it doesn't mean that I'm not watching my surrounding to protect myself. I don't want to be anyone's victim. I got to be prepared, and in case anything happened at any time, right? And you just never know, man. Every time you come around the news, I mean, look, I was left in peace since my book got released, right? My book got released. It was only Europe and United States, right? I mean, Australia was like the only country. When I went on NPR, the book went all over Europe. It was all like people in Canada. As soon as actually I went on Valuetainment podcast, which is ran by Patrick David, which is a really successful millionaire in the United States. He's Iranian. And because his podcast is actually watched and extremely watched in Iran and is actually being watched by the Iranian Ministry of Intelligence. And as soon as I went on his show, it was like I opened the portal of all the operatives I ever faced in my life.
Oh, yeah.
They all just popped out of that portal, and all of a sudden, like, I was getting all these messages on Instagram, messages on Facebook, and threat messages, right?
Oh, man.
Traitor, you're going to kill you, you're going to get beheaded, all kind of stuff. Perhaps to this day, I am still getting messages from that interview.
That's
and
incredible.
If you go, actually, it's kind of interesting, actually. I went through the comments of that interview, and I actually pulled, like, a voting poll into who was really in my side. It was actually a way for me, this is more spy shit that you have. It was a way for me to know who are really my enemies, right? Mm-hmm. It was actually, and it was all in there. It was over 1,600 comments. And in these 1,600 comments, I was actually able to see the mentalities of my enemies. And
absolutely.
It was interesting that actually the majority of people who lived inside of those countries in Iran and Iraq were on my side.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only people who were against me, it was actually white Americans who didn't agree with my statement, and the operatives who actually work for the Iranian intelligence, that they actually do this full time. They go around, they make comments and they do all that. They have like an online army of people. It was interesting that it was people who didn't agree with my politics here in the United States, and it was the enemy completely the enemy that was actually making these comments and doing everything. And it's kind of interesting because when I talked in there in that interview, the Iranian and the Iraqi people were on my side. The governments were not on my side.
Because they knew that you spoke the truth.
Yeah. It was simple, right? I mean, it was the most heated interview, right? It was very like ping pong going one another.
Yeah, it was a great interview. Yeah. I've listened to it. And
Soleimani was just killed kind of days prior to that. I mean, what a perfect time, right?
Right.
So truly, I am immune to this. Like, I'm used to getting these threats, right? Sure. I know any random American, if they get a threat like that, they'll fucking freak out, right? They'll freak out, like, oh my God, I got threatened. Someone want to behead me. For me, I lived in that freaking life.
Yeah.
Every single day, I was told I was going to lose my life by the same individuals.
Absolutely. So for people that are not familiar with your story, maybe they haven't read your book or seen your documentary.
Yeah.
Tell us where you were born and tell us a little bit about your childhood.
Baghdad, Iraq, baby.
You were born in Baghdad.
Yeah, I was born in Baghdad.
And you grew up right inside the city, or was it outside the city?
Oh, no, inside of the city.
You were raised up in the city of Baghdad.
Yeah, I grew up right in Baghdad. And, I lived in my grandfather's farm in the south during the summer. But in Baghdad, I grew up there, man. I grew up literally about...
it would be in the inner city?
Yeah, so I was like 15 minutes from downtown, basically. Okay. Yeah, I was like.
And then you said your grandfather had a farm outside of the city?
Yeah, no, it was like in the south.
How far away?
Shit, it was like at least about 5 hours away.
Okay, so you would travel to your grandfather's farm during the summer.
Yeah.
Would you work there or just chill out?
Yeah, work, take care of animals, protect animals, do all kind of stuff, man. It's fun. It's fun being out there in the wild. I mean, we have no electricity. Literally we have no electricity, nothing.
So what I don't want to give the exact year you were born. Well, what decade were you born in?
I mean, the 80s.
In the 80s.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're an 80s child. What was going on at that time in Iraq?
I mean, shit. When I was born, Iran-Iraq war was going on.
Okay.
And the Iran-Iraq war, it was a bad time. Mm-hmm. Everybody had to go to the front line. Mm-hmm. But economically, the country was not as bad.
Okay. Was that the Russians were helping the Iranians at that time, right? Actually,
the Russians were helping the Iraqis.
Oh.
Yeah, the Russians, because the Russians were actually helping the Iraqis. It was weird because it was all about buying weapons. So the Russians may have helped on both sides because they wanted to sell weapons.
That whole conflict was about like resources, maybe?
The whole conflict was actually about power.
Okay.
Yeah, like Iran at the time had Al-Khamenei, which is like the religious radical rising up. And he took over a year prior to the Iran-Iraq war in 1987 or 79. Mm-hmm. No, I'm sorry, 78 or 78 or 79. He took over, and then Saddam took over a year later. So these two leaders really went at it. Okay. And it was a threat because Iran was trying to basically take Iraq right under its wing, trying to take Iraq over, basically. And Iran believed in manufacturing the revolution and send it all over the Middle East. That's what they believed on. So Saddam went to war with them to kind of protect himself from their influence, from the Iranian influence. And then the war went on. It ended in 1988. And then Saddam entered Kuwait in 1991. There, things were extremely different.
Absolutely.
Because Iraq went under sanctions. And when Iraq went under sanctions, that means economically you were done.
Oh, yeah.
And you were shut down. There was nobody giving you anything. You were not selling anything to the outside world. And I'm talking about the most brutal time in Iraq I've ever seen, man. It was during time. Like, you're talking about economically, right? Like, I remember a teacher during the 90s in Iraq was getting paid about $3 a month.
Oh, my gosh.
And a dozen of 12 eggs was just the same price.
Wow.
I mean, it was bad. When I say like, look, dude, this is terrible.
Yeah.
And
like absolute poverty.
You're gonna wonder, like, how do people survive, right? If you can't buy eggs during that time, how are you gonna survive? I'll tell you how they survived. That was the communist rules. They gave you just about enough to survive. So what the government did at the time started trading food for oil. All right. So they will trade oil for food.
Wow.
Because how else are they going to keep these people?
Sure.
So they started trading barrels for food, and they got food. And what they did, every month, you'll get just extra amount of stuff, extra amount of rice, extra amount of oil, extra amount of lentils, and you have just really about enough to feed yourself.
So it's like rations.
Yeah, man.
Wow.
And you it's like a food stand, but you actually go get the food. You're not gonna have anywhere to buy. You got to stand in line
to get in all this.
Oh, you stand on the fucking line, and when they give you the oil, they give you the rice.
And by oil,
lentils.
you mean like cooking oil?
Cooking oil, yeah. They give you they give you like the cooking oil, and it's like not the best quality stuff. It's actually the shittiest stuff.
Right.
So like they give you flours, right? And they give you this flour, and you just don't really know if it's brown bread or white bread flour. You have no idea what that shit is.
Right.
It just looked brown. And you make it, so you make bread with that, right? People actually survive by eating bread.
Yeah.
And when you make it, I still remember the taste. When you taste that bread, you can actually taste the chemicals in it.
Oh, God.
And when I found out, I had an uncle that actually was working somewhere that he's seen how the processing of the flour is. He said sometimes they don't have enough flours, they'll throw plastic shit, like recycle.
God. Oh, it's horrible.
Oh, it's terrible.
That's horrible.
You're eating a bread that probably had recycle shit gone in it.
Yeah.
And truly, that's what you got. And if you didn't have if you were depending on the government or anything, if you were didn't have any other money stashed up, most likely you'd be selling stuff that you owned. Wow. So what I saw growing up is, let's say people owned a table, people owned a couch since the 80s.
Yeah.
They'll put that couch to sell.
Wow.
They'll put that. I mean, I'm talking about, no joke. I've seen people sell clothes, like their used clothes. I've seen people sell anything they own. So you're talking about gold, jewelry. That first thing is gone. Because what doesn't matter having gold and jewelry when you're hungry?
Yeah.
Nothing matters at that point. And all that matters is, can you buy food?
Yeah, because your belly's empty.
One interesting event that the country was going through rough patch, right? I mean, you're talking 1991 when Iraq went under sanctions, all the way up to 2003, bro. You're talking about 12 years of you can't afford to eat meat, you can't afford to eat properly. Everybody's so skinny you can see their bones through their, like you can see people were skinny, bro. I'm talking about there was not enough food. And the crazy thing is, it's not funny actually. The crazy thing that happened that because people who sell food supplies, people who sell rice, people who specialize in selling cooking oil, or people sell sugar, right? Like dessert and sweets were very expensive. Not many people were able to afford it. And the people who are in charge of the market, there was nobody in charge of the market. People, literally these business people who owns these supplies, or they get these supplies from somewhere, right? From farmers or whatever. They can raise the price to any price they want.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
They can say, well, it's going to be $10 a pound for sugar.
Wow.
They could do that. So this is something interesting that many people don't know about. So one day, it was like 1994, 95. And people were not able to afford to buy sugar. I don't know how many other items. It was like sugar, oil, cooking oil, and they raised the prices like triple.
Oh, man.
And they just raised it, right? They're like, well, what else? People have to pay in order to get it. Saddam Hussein woke up and he found out through his intelligence. I mean, he had 35 intelligence agencies all over Iraq, right? All their job is to find out what the hell is happening.
Ears everywhere, yeah.
So who woke up and they told him that, look, all these business and market owners, blah, 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 have raised the prices of all items, and now people are freaking out. So they sent the Iraqi intelligence, and they picked all the people all of the business people. I'm talking about like it was all the people that ran these stores or factories or were selling sugars. So it's like a dealer, right?
Right, yeah.
So it's like these people, they make money. They're sugar dealers. They are flour dealers. They are whatever. They literally showed up at the market and they picked all of them up. And it was like hundreds of them, right?
Arrested them.
Just arrested them.
Wow.
Detained them. And this is a big case, actually. They actually charged Saddam Hussein on this one in his trial. Picked them all. And most of them thought, well, where are they going to go? They're going to go to prison, right? Mm-hmm. And then somehow they're going to have to, go to trial. Mm-hmm. It was actually all ready in the same day. They took them straight from there, lined them up to trial, and they stood them all in trial. And the person was the Ba'ath Party Supreme Judge. Mm-hmm. That guy comes in, that's only ordered by Saddam. This is the Supreme Judge. This is not a regular judge. This is the Ba'ath Party. This is like the communist,
the highest guy,
the Nazi judge, top guy. He came in and he said, all of them are executed right now.
They killed him?
Killed all of them, brother.
Holy cow, dude.
There was one survivor. One. Killed all of them, and they executed them right in there. There's actually a video of the court.
Oh my!
There's a video of the court. They're just standing there, and they tell them, "All right, you're getting the punishment of execution. You're done." And they're looking at each other like, "We didn't do anything. All we did, we raised the prices." Right? I'm like,
wow.
Do you know why he did it? He killed them, all these people, and he replaced them with intelligence officers.
So he makes it look like he's on the side of the people.
Exactly. No, but not just the side of the people, but he didn't want people freaking out.
Yeah.
So what he did, he wanted to control the market. Mm-hmm. So what Saddam did, he executed all the people that control the market.
Wow.
There was hundreds of them, man. These people have been around forever, right? Executed all of them, and he replaced them with intelligence officers.
Wow.
So the people actually start dealing with sugar. Being a sugar dealer was actually an intelligence officer.
Man.
He just sat there where the guy was in there. He was executed and killed. So he controlled the market. Mm-hmm. He was like, we're under sanctions. Nobody's going to be able to do whatever they want. Yeah. I decide whatever I want.
Wow.
And it was only one survivor because it was 3 brothers. They were supply dealers. And they said, we're 3 brothers. Like, this is all our family got. And they said, okay, we will let one go. They let the younger brother go.
Wow.
Yeah. And they said, we'll let one go. And so he was the only survivor, actually, that showed up in court. And when Saddam got prosecuted.
Yeah. So this is very hard times in Iraq.
Yeah.
People are
rough,
very desperate.
Man.
People are hungry.
Rough.
So let's go to when you were about 12 years old. You're walking home from school.
Yeah.
And you get stopped by a police officer. What happens?
I mean, I talk about this story in my podcast all the time.
Yeah, let's hear it.
It's really look. I mean, you're talking about a time in Iraq where you could not respond to a regime member. I mean, when a lot of Americans find this story to be horrific, right? But that was the norm.
Yeah,
the norm is if you get approached by a regime member in societies like that, you really cannot talk back. They will kill you. Mm-hmm. And that's how Iraq was, man. And I got approached by a police officer back then who was a regime member.
Yep.
And at the time I was a child. I couldn't distinguish the difference between a regime member and a regular person. And I'm talking about...
So you don't know if this is like a real cop or if he's like a...
No, he is a cop.
Yeah.
But there is difference between a regular cop and an elite cop. Do you see what I mean?
Right, yeah.
He was a regime guy. So here's what separates...
So he has direct ties to the government.
Yes. Okay. Here's what separates regular individuals in Iraq back then from elite individuals. So every person has a rank within the Ba'ath Party. Mm-hmm. So there's ranks within the party. You know, there's like a junior... middle rank, senior, pro senior, whatever it is. And it goes all the way up. So there are people who had regular occupation. Mm-hmm. So like an example, one of my teachers came in with a gun. He had a gun in his belt the whole time. Mm-hmm. That teacher was a teacher, but his rank within the Ba'ath Party was extremely high. He was a general pretty much within the Ba'ath Party. I mean, imagine no one can fuck with that teacher.
Yeah.
The rest of the teachers have nothing to say for him. The principal cannot even fucking tell him anything. That guy doesn't even have to show up if he wants to.
Right.
Because he's a member of the Ba'ath Party. Mm-hmm. He's a high-ranking Ba'ath Party member. So that's how Iraq was, is you got individuals you can run into that have an extremely high rank within the Ba'ath Party. Mm-hmm. But they could be anybody. They could be a police officer. They could be a teacher. It could be a principal. Actually, a lot of teachers and principals back then were members of the Ba'ath Party.
Sure.
It was a police officer in the army. Perhaps in the Iraqi army back then, you cannot obtain the rank of a brigadier general if you don't have a status within the Ba'ath Party. So everybody has to have a status within the Ba'ath Party. Every single person in Iraq. Once you're over 18 years old, you have to have a status.
Right. So you're approached by this police officer.
Yeah.
You do not realize he has good ties in the government. He's a high-ranking Ba'ath Party official.
Yeah. And not to repeat the story, but it was like the difference was between him and others. Mm-hmm. Actually, he looked different.
Yeah.
And the way, it was kind of interesting. Like, later on, when I fought some of these people after 2003, I was already immune enough to know who they really are. Believe it or not, I can tell a Ba'ath Party member from just the way they talk. Mm-hmm. The way they talk, or the way they walk, or the way they dressed.
Okay.
There is a lot of signs. And truly, when I got approached, it was three police officers. Right? Mm-hmm. And the two police officers who were behind him looked nothing like him.
Right.
They talked differently. They were regular people. Right. They were not elite like he was. He was the elite. He was the highest rank, and he was the elite among the Ba'ath Party. So his reach was strong.
Sure.
And he looked different. He looked cleaner. Mm-hmm. His uniform was a lot more sharper. He had a lot of patches, a lot of different things. So he looked a lot extremely different. And
so why did you defy him? He asked you for some money or something?
Yeah. So I refused to give my money.
Yeah.
And I cursed him when he hit me because he found the money and he got pissed. And back then it was a norm. Mm-hmm. They come by you, you give them what you got in your pocket, and they walk away.
Right. And so he asked for money. You refused to give it to him. He hits you, and you curse him.
Yeah, and I cursed him. That was a big thing in our culture. He threw me in there and took me to
a police car.
A police car, and drove me for 45 minutes to the Ministry of Interior in Iraq.
So anybody that has watched your documentary knows the story.
Oh,
but you're basically, to summarize it, you're in prison for about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
3 to 4 weeks, right? Mm-hmm. You're beaten every single day.
Yeah.
Eventually, you were able to bribe a prison official because you had money hidden in your shoe.
Yeah, in my socks.
And they were able to. They were able to call your family.
Make a phone call.
Your family had no idea where you were.
It was actually the guard that cleaned the commander of the prison office.
Wow.
At night. So the whole prison had one landline. I mean, where I was, it was a compound. It was not a bullshit.
Way outside of town.
Prison. It was way outside of town. It was a compound. It was all blocked up from the world. And it was right inside of the Ministry of Interior, really right behind it. So where you were, not regular human beings can ever see. Perhaps I have never in my life back then at that age seen the Ministry of Interior.
And most people do not, when they get into this prison, most people do not make it out alive.
Yeah.
They don't leave.
They do not. Because what it is,
they're
it's
tortured every day.
They call it transformation prison.
Yeah. Because the people that go to this prison are people that have been accused of
anything.
Of treason, right?
It could be treason. It could be anything.
Yeah.
What it is called transformation prison. Mm-hmm. Transformation means from there, your fate gets decided. Whether you get executed, whether you go to trial, whether you go to underground prison, whether you go to a prison for somewhere else, your case as a human being get settled right in there.
Mm-hmm. So were you one of the youngest people there, or was it mostly adults, or was it also
mostly
other children?
No, it was mostly adults.
So you're like one of the only children.
Absolutely. I was the only child. I've never. It's all adult, bro. It's adult, and some people were old.
Yeah.
Some people were been there for a long time.
So I bet you other prisoners are like, what the heck are you doing here?
Oh yeah, they'll probably think you are involved in something. Yeah. That's what actually they thought first. And then they started getting to know my story, and they're like, you refused to give them your money and you're here? And they're like, we can assure you that this is not what you've been accused for.
So
refusing to get your money.
So you're there for 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah.
You're tortured every single day, sometimes even hung upside down and beaten.
Yeah. And that was the norm in prison.
Yeah.
In Iraq, this was the norm, and except that there are some people that got lucky, they got beat up and let go. So at that point is I started feeling like I may get lucky and just get beat up and let go. Right. And that was not the case because I already have signed on confessions. The prison itself was not like a prison you think an American prison in a cell. It was actually a warehouse just full of people. And it was all like one prison pretty much. And that's where people were. There was no beds. There was nothing like that. And this was reality, man. If you come against the government, if you come against the wrong guy, you'll be done. But there's one thing that saves your life.
What's that?
That because Iraq is under sanction, because of that society being so hungry and poor, bribes were going on.
Oh, yeah.
So the only reason I got someone in that prison to make a phone call to my family, because you would take anything.
Yeah.
Perhaps the prisoners were actually making little things like a little bean bracelet. They'll make it from certain things. They'll make it and they'll trade it for a favor. So there was anything, there was a language going on. And there was only one landline in the commander of the prison office. And what this guy does while he cleaned the office at night, he picks the landline and call it. I mean, that I know you're like asking questions that are not answered in different podcasts before. One something that I never said in any other podcast is that guy, the guard who actually made that phone call for my family, was putting his life in the line.
Oh yeah.
You know what? Why he was putting his life on the line?
I mean, if he got discovered,
he was lucky.
Yeah.
Because Iraq had over 35 intelligence agencies. Not all these intelligence agencies, it's job to watch the Iraqi people. Some agencies watch one another.
Yeah.
So he was lucky that landline was not watched or tapped into.
Right.
That other agencies could be listening. And Saddam, that's exactly how he controlled Iraq, is by listening on every single person. So if you're listening on people, there's always somebody listening on you. So that's how it is. That's how perhaps Saddam actually established some of these agencies and have implemented his policy about watching one another.
Yeah.
So that guard, I mean, that was before the era. You remember there's landlines that came up in the late 90s, when you call, you can see the number that's calling you.
The caller ID. Yeah.
The caller ID. It was prior to that.
There was no caller ID.
There was no caller ID. It was actually, what do you call it? The dial.
Oh, yeah. The
round dial.
Rotary, the dial phone. Yeah.
And those, you can never really tell.
Right.
Unless you work at the communication center, if that line was actually tapped into. Perhaps a lot of people who listen to the phone calls are also intelligence officers. So the people who are actually listening to your calls, or they're sitting in the communication center, could be working for the government, and they could be listening on someone this whole time. So that guy, that guard, was just bald, right? Because he was making extra amount of money as a prison guard, right? He doesn't have a lot of money, and whatever he can get. Right? Yeah. If he can get an item that he can go sell and make money out of, that's how bad people were, man.
Sure.
But when
I mean, it's desperate times.
Yeah, and when I left the prison, I mean, look, Iraq was still under sanctions.
Right. So let's fill in the blanks for people that don't know your story. So you were able to have the guard contact your family.
Then my family started negotiating.
No idea where you were.
Yeah.
So they gather a bunch of money, all the money they can find. They come
and they got me out.
And they got you released.
And they got me released. And
were they happy to find you?
No, they were not happy.
They were upset with you.
Of course, because I stepped on the wrong person's toe.
Yeah.
I mean, at that point, look, man, at 12 years old.
So didn't your own father tell you should have just given your money?
And everybody would tell you that.
Yeah.
Not just anybody, not just your own father, man. It was like society would say, "Are you fucking crazy?"
Yeah. You should have just given your money.
When you approach like that, they tell you to take off your shirt. You do it.
Wow.
And that was the society. But for me as a 12-year-old, I had a hard time processing. I was a stupid nerd that's going to be like, well, why do I have to give you my shoes?
Yeah.
Why do I have to give you my money?
Yeah.
It's mine.
Yeah.
That doesn't work over there. That didn't work. That was like, if I tell you to do something, you do.
So you were a different mindset from day one. You were not one of the sheep.
No, definitely.
You weren't going along.
No, I was just like, why do I have to give you my money? It's my money. I don't have to give you any. But they see, because Iraq, again, I go back to that story. Because Iraq was under sanction, this is the result. you got the society monsters. That's what I call them.
Yeah.
Because of what Iraq went through, wars. I mean, imagine war from 1980 to 1988.
Yeah. We
literally just mourned for 2 years from the people we lost. Over 1 million people died. And then we go to Kuwait and the Desert Storm starts. So where do we live? We are from one war to another. You were born, and I was born in that shit in the 80s. I was born in the middle of it.
Yeah.
And your lifestyle. So, but you have to know, Iraq was a great country. The people of Iraq were great people. That shit, the wars, created a whole different generation.
Absolutely.
Created monsters, heartless monsters. But it just goes to show you what could happen to any nation that can go hungry. I mean, you're talking about Iraq went from having people with high morals. I mean, the people that fought around the 80 against Iran were truly people with high morals.
Yeah.
Very good people. Like, they would not steal anybody. They would not take anybody's shit. They were not, like, they were good people. They're like real good people. And then right off that war, man, we started getting that new generation of like people would just take anything out of you.
I mean, if you're hungry, you'll sell your soul.
And it is. And it really is a society monsters, man. The monsters that popped out. I mean, that guy was actually nothing compare.
So now your whole family's pissed at you. Right. Yeah. They're upset that you didn't comply with orders.
Yeah.
Now they had to spend all this money to bail you out of jail and all this stuff. So you're dealing with all of that. Yeah. And that's how you spend your teenage years. You're kind of like the family outcast because you messed up in their eyes.
Absolutely.
And then one day an American soldier knocks on your door. Tell me about that.
I mean, when the American soldiers arrived in Iraq, holy shit, man. You're talking about.
So this is 2003 when the surge.
You're talking about...
Or not the surge. 2003 was the initial invasion.
Yeah. And when you... Truly, it's like one of the most magical moments when you really saw the Americans for the first time.
So I was actually involved in Operation Shock and Awe.
Yeah.
My ship, the USS Donald Cook, was actually the first... ship to launch missiles into Baghdad. And our target was Saddam.
I was literally right in front of my house watching missiles go up.
So our initial target, we launched the first 3 missiles that went into Baghdad.
Yeah.
And one of our targets was one of Saddam's palaces. Unfortunately, he was not home at the time.
I'll tell you this.
So you're sitting there watching these missiles fly over?
Bro, when I say this, I'm glad you brought this up. It was probably one of the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life.
So you're just watching these missiles fly into your city.
It was the most beautiful thing at night.
Yeah.
When you see the SAM missile system launching on aircrafts, and you seen that, because what happened was the U.S. Air Force took over the airspace, and you have the Iraqi air defense. Truly, if you went out to see a war on the sky, it was the most beautiful thing you'll ever see. It was the most 3D ride, like from Epcot Center at Disney World.
Yeah.
This is how beautiful this was. Actually, you watch jets get shot down.
Wow.
And the way you know how when a jet gets shot down, you actually see something blows up in the air.
Yeah.
And it's the rocket blowing up. And I watched actually a jet literally falling from the sky, falling somewhere. I can watch it literally on the sky. And it was really the noise, and they have air defense systems that are shooting and rockets and everything. It's looked like a fireworks show. As
a young teenager, it must feel like completely surreal.
I mean, it's surreal, really. Like I really, what I did, I brought a chair and I sat there and I started watching. I was like, shit.
You weren't fearful that you would be hit with anything,
bro, or you're like so immune to it.
Yeah,
everybody was outside watching.
Wow,
and people are watching, but did we think America would make it into Baghdad that fast? Fuck no. I mean, it took them 21 days.
Yeah, we were in there quick.
I mean, it was like a few weeks, bro. And 3 weeks, America was in Baghdad. And that was the shock, is that you came in and you just opened your door and you couldn't believe it, right? And I'm talking about, we saw Bradleys come by from further. And people had a hard time believing, these cannot be American tanks. This is probably, see the conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
This is probably the Republican Guard, right?
Right.
Just moving by.
Yeah.
So people actually got shocked. So there was a Ba'ath Party member in my neighborhood, who was doing like a duty kind of station. And he thought the Americans were the Republican Guard.
Oh, wow.
He had like an RPG on his hand. He came out to look. He got shot in the face.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that guy lived in my neighborhood.
Wow.
And he was a Ba'ath Party member. And he got shot and killed by a sniper immediately. And that's when they found out, oh, shit, this is really Americans. These are Americans.
Wow.
And then they came in. And here's the interesting part. You live in a neighborhood and you hear noise, right? So we hear armor is moving. We hear tanks and Bradleys are moving, right? We hear all the surfs, like,
and this is in your neighborhood, like in your neighborhood, down your street and everything. Wow.
And you hear it, right? You like, you hear shit is moving. You were like, damn, like, what's that?
Right.
And all of a sudden, like you hear it moving, right? And you'd be like, what this could be. You'll have no idea. It could be Iraqis or Americans. What is it, right? But the hardest thing to grasp was nobody believed Americans were in Baghdad.
Yeah.
The last thing you saw in the news were Americans were like in the borders. Because what America did, they fought in Basra on the borders.
Yeah.
And they actually kept fighting in the borders. And then they dropped troops inside of Iraq.
Yeah.
And they call it the frog jump, the style they did. And what they did is they were fully jumping from different places. Perhaps the U.S. Army was on Baghdad borders while there is people in Basra in the borders of Iraq fighting.
Yeah.
And then these people kept fighting until Baghdad fell. And they came and told them, Baghdad failed, man. What are you doing? These people truly in Basra didn't give a shit about Saddam, but they were afraid if they don't fight, they die.
Right.
Saddam will come and kill them. So they said, we're not doing this like 1991. We're not going to die. We're actually going to fucking fight because I don't want to be treated like going as a treason or betraying the country and then they're going to kill me. So they couldn't believe it. They were holding the borders against the U.S. Army and the British Army and whoever it is. And then they told them, dude, Baghdad's gone. Like all Iraq is pretty much gone. Everything behind you is done.
Wow.
And they're like, really? Baghdad fell? And we're like, yes, Baghdad fell. Stop, drop your gun, run the fuck away.
Yeah.
And truly they did. They dropped their guns. I mean, these people didn't like Saddam for sure, but they were fighting because they were
afraid. They were more afraid of Saddam.
They were afraid of Saddam. Yeah. And the truth is they actually made them feel that this is it. This is all coming at them. It wasn't. They were coming from different places. Yeah. And the 101st was already going through Najaf, like all the Baghdad. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, the borders was already holding. So they were behind them. Mm-hmm. And they went in, and surely it was a feeling that you just couldn't like describe, man. Like for you to be, imagine this, right?
So did you have you had hope? Maybe?
Oh, of course. But look, you were like, imagine you live in North Korea. Mm-hmm. You don't see shit. When I talk about this society, North Korea, Iraq, Baghdad, and Saddam, you are in a fucking closed society, man. You don't see anything. You don't hear anything. You only have 2 channels. That's it. And all of a sudden you see the people they've been talking about, the Americans, are right in front of you. I mean, shit, that was like a weird experience, right?
Yeah.
You open the door and you just see like, whoa.
So you open the door of your childhood home. Yeah. You see an American soldier. Is he a white guy?
Yeah.
So you see this white American soldier.
Oh yeah. I mean, it was.
Does he talk to you? What does he say?
I mean, I know I talked about this in different podcasts, right? Yeah. I was trying to tell you all the things that I never talked about. It was like you're not really sure. I mean, I was afraid.
Yeah.
That if this was a push around and then the Iraqis will eventually come back and someone reports you talking to an American, shit, you'll be done.
Yeah.
So before I even open the rest of the door, before I even engage in a conversation with that American soldier, I actually asked him, are you guys leaving this time?
And what did he say?
And he said, what do you mean? I said, are you guys leaving? Like leaving away? Or are you staying? And he said, oh, you mean no, we're leaving? No, we're staying this time. Mm-hmm. He knew what I was asking.
Okay.
When he said that, I opened the rest of the door. And I know I never said that in a lot of podcasts. And because if he said no, we were not staying, and this was just a kind of what I call a push around, and the Iraqis were going to come back, I'll be the first person to be pulled out and shot in the face.
Yeah.
And this happened in Iraq, and that's exactly how they killed thousands of people in the South, and some of them, they buried them alive. You're talking about, this was a very high risk for me to engage in a conversation with an American. And when he said, we're not leaving this time. And when he said that, I absolutely believed him. Because the way the Bradleys were going through the neighborhoods, bro, I'm telling you, was the most. So here's what they did. They actually came in and all the soldiers dismounted from all the Bradleys, and the soldiers were really walking either side. They actually had a parade.
Wow.
That's exactly how they did
like
it in Baghdad.
Like a show of strength, maybe.
It is show of strength. It was like a parade, bro. They walk through every major road, other road, and they truly walk through all Baghdad.
Yeah.
And I think it was because letting people see what the Americans are like. And I remember when everybody started getting confident and they started coming out, and people were like, Saddam's gone? Shit. Like, this is ridiculous. Saddam, nobody could believe it, right? And then all of a sudden you have people coming out, looking at them, looking at the supplies, looking at the way they dress. I mean, first time in my life I saw a body armor.
Yeah.
Never seen a freaking body armor my whole life.
Yeah.
I kept looking at the guns. And I'm like, shit. Like, I'm looking at it at an M16, and I'm looking at an M4 with a grenade launcher. And I'm like, what the fuck is that? Right?
Yeah, so that's some crazy weaponry.
You seen like the AK-47. You seen a very beat up, skinny soldiers by Saddam, but you never seen a soldier that looked like that. I mean, it was like,
it was probably some like space age type of stuff.
It is. To us, this was. So there is a funny, interesting thing. There was a lot of conspiracy theories, and PSYOP was going on prior to the Americans entering. And a lot of it was actually the U.S. PSYOP was doing a great job on telling the Iraqi soldiers who were fighting to defend Baghdad that the American soldier is invincible. Like, nobody could stop him, that he has technology. He has a lot of things. He's going to kill you, so you need to leave. So one of these things that was going around is that every American wore glasses. You know, every soldier was wearing glasses.
Like goggles, right?
Goggles. Some of them are yellow glasses. They don't really goggles. They're like goggles, small. Yellow glasses, you know, black glasses, whatever they were wearing, the one they were supposed to wear. And they said that they could actually see you naked in that glasses. That technology is so high that the American soldier can see you naked. Don't let your woman come out. And he can see if you have a gun inside of your clothes.
Wow.
This was all PSYOP shit.
Yeah.
And you should see like how people are like, do you think this is funny. Do you think he can see me naked? The truth is, the American soldiers didn't even know what the fuck we were asking, right? Hey, can you see people naked in that glasses? Like, what? What are you talking about? And truly that was the norm. That people believed the American soldier got some alien technology shit.
Right.
And truly what you were looking at is Beretta, right? They're like, what kind of handgun is that shit? That shit is laser. It's not. It was freaking Beretta. It's nothing anything. And they had all this stuff, and you know, you seen at the time, you know, the what do you call it? The stuff, the glue.
Oh, the glow sticks?
The glow sticks.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm telling you, 20 million Iraqis were fascinated by the glue sticks.
I mean, they look pretty cool.
Yeah, like they see them, and in front of them, and it's really like we were looking at it.
It's
like,
magic.
We're like, what is this liquid? What does this do, right? And until one of the soldiers noticed, we were looking at it. He's like, he took one. He's like, you can have it. We're like, oh, is this shit gonna blow up or something? Don't touch it. And then one of them came in, he broke it. It started glowing. He goes, that's all it is. It's fucking a light. It's a light. It's temporarily light. And people were so happy they got a glue stick, man. It was like big deal,
I
right?
bet, yeah.
And it was a really weird moment, right?
Yeah.
We were like a bunch of freaking monkeys that were in the zoo. They're all alive.
Yeah.
They came out to the wild and you know, watch the troops go by. It was really a magical moment. And I remember like 3 days. For 3 days, all I did every day, anywhere they tell me where there's an American soldiers are, I'll go.
So you're just fascinated with these guys.
I was just anywhere they tell me. I'm talking about, I swear, there was like some unit that was like stopped by. It was about like 2-3 miles away. I walked all the way up there. I walked all the way up there, and I just watched from distance, right? Just watch all the vehicles, all the shit, the Humvees going by, the Abrams tanks. I was watching the tanks. I'm like, shit, look at that shit. It's massive compared to the Iraqi tank that looked like shit, and it's old, and it's like T-72. And you see these tanks and everything. And I was fascinated for 3 days, man. All I wanted to do is just go watch, just go see the Americans, right?
Yeah. So you decide that you're going to volunteer for the very first, one of the very first Iraqi military volunteers. So how did you found out they were recruiting for the Iraqi army?
Through the radio.
So you show up, you want to join the Iraqi army.
Yeah, so they did is when they entered Iraq, there was nothing. All Iraqi channels went down, the 2 Iraqi national channels that ran by the government. Nobody knew at the time what you're going to do, right? Everybody went home. What are you going to do? Right. Police officers went home. There's nobody on the road, right? There's only American soldiers. So they figured they needed to get the police back, right? So the U.S. military occupied Iraq. They took it down. And then they said, all right, what do we got to do now? So they established a radio station. That's the first thing.
Good.
A radio station. And the radio station started saying, hey, we are the coalition forces. We are not here to harm you. You know, if we're here to liberate you. And we started a line of communication. So we started from the conversation with American soldiers to a radio. Now we get to know what their intentions are, right?
Right.
So these are interesting part I never talked about before. And people in Iraq believed at that point that every Iraqi was going to be rich because they thought we have oil. And Saddam never gave us money off the oil we have. So now we're probably going to be given money by the U.S. government.
Oh.
Because now they have the oil and they're going to give us salaries. They're going to give us money. So people were like, oh, man, wait for it. These next few years is going to be the shit.
Yeah.
We're going to be rich. People were like hopeful.
Yeah.
And in the radio, they said, and I kind of looked at it, the Ba'athists was really just kind of regrouping. Like I knew at that point, shit was going to go down. Like I knew that it's going to get bad. It was not. A lot of people were like, oh, it's going to be so beautiful. It's going to be awesome. You're probably going to make $5 a month.
Wow.
That's what you heard.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to give you $1 every month, like $5 a month. You know, that's what they said. So the norm was you're going to get $5 a month. That's a lot of money in Iraq. And you're going to get salary. We're going to be living like Dubai. That's what we were thinking.
Okay.
And for me, I'm sitting there I'm looking at the Ba'athist, right?
Yeah.
And they're not happy about it.
I'm like, what are skeptical.
Yeah. I'm like, what is these people going to do? They don't give a shit about the $5. They're going to fuck shit up.
Yeah.
And I immediately looked and I said, shit's going to go down. This is going to be a war. And I don't know who's going to fight these Ba'athists, right? It's going to be the U.S. military versus the Fedayeen, the Saddam suicide fighters and the Ba'athists. So I just knew that situation was temporarily. It was peaceful, but it was temporarily. It was a ticking bomb. It was just about to blow the shit up in your face. So I was actually sitting home and listening to the radio, and they said they let go of the old Iraqi military. We don't need you back. We don't need the military back. The police, you are welcome to come back to the police station, and we will pay you. And of course, every police officer was excited. It was like, I'm going to make $100 a month.
Yeah.
That's what they thought, right? America is paying. That's what everybody's thinking. America is paying, baby.
They're rich.
They got dressed. My neighbor was a cop. He got dressed. He went to the police station. He's like, dude, I'm going to be making money. You're talking about a whole country was living under sanctions. So they went in and then, like they said, hey, man, we need the police back. We need you to come back, do your job, blah, blah. And they started slowly. And then they said, we let go of the old Iraqi military. And we are establishing the new Iraqi military. We are starting from scratch. If you would like to join the military, you are welcome to report to the recruiting station in Baghdad, right near Al-Zawra Park. You're talking to a nation that had mandatory military its own life. And that nation has been at war since 1980. And it was 2003.
Yeah.
Do you think anybody would want to go join the military?
No.
No, absolutely not.
But you did.
I did. And the reason why I went, because I just kind of knew if I did not take that decision, if I did not take that chance that day, my whole life would have been extremely different today. Yeah. That it was one decision, bro. That day I had to decide. When they said, you're going, and I still remember my conversation with my dad. I said, I'm going to go join the Iraqi military.
Did he support that decision?
He said, are you crazy? You're going to die. That's the sentence.
Wow.
Are you crazy? You're going to die. He knew.
So your own father
he
did not support your decision.
He knew shit's going to go down.
Yeah.
He was like, you're going to fight the whole entire old Iraqi military. And I'm like, I'm going to go do this.
So you go to this recruiting station.
Yeah, I go to this recruiting station. I was 17.
And how old are you supposed to be?
18. I faked
so
an
what
ID.
happens? You show
I faked
up?
an ID.
You show up.
I faked an ID to get in.
Okay.
And they actually knew when I came back, I faked an ID. They just still let me in. They felt bad for me. They're like, this guy's hopeless. And there's like 5 people on the line. Mm-hmm. And this is stories that I'm talking about. Because I've said this in other podcasts. I don't want to repeat myself.
Absolutely, yeah.
I'm trying to tell the side that I never told.
Mm-hmm.
There was about 5 people on the line. This is a crazy story that I never told. There was one guy on the line. His name is Jalil. He's end up going to the first Fallujah battle with me, end up going to Haifa Street with me. That guy ended up serving in my unit. I became later on his command sergeant major.
Awesome.
The guy was wearing a long Iraqi dress, the long dress.
Yeah, like a robe. Yeah.
And it was ripped off all the way down to his stomach. Like you're talking about, we were 5 people on the line that day. If they were the most hopeless motherfuckers on the planet that day, these were the most helpless people in the country. And I'm looking at that guy, right? Like I'm looking at myself. I'm all skinny, Iraqi, not well fed, wearing kind of decent clothes. I'm looking at this guy who has no shoes and a ripped off dress all the way down to his belly button. And I'm looking at him like, what the hell?
So he looks like homeless or something.
Worse than homeless. And I'm still thinking like, who is this guy? Yeah. Like, where the hell did this guy come from? Did he just come out of the dumpster? What would it look like? So I joined the Iraqi military. We got sent to the northern Iraq to train. And this is like fast forward. I got trained by the MPRI company, American company, Vietnam veterans. Mm-hmm. Wonderful people. They figured out the codes for these soldiers, right? We were not well fed. They brought us a 5-star restaurant, but we were eating protein meat every single day, twice a day, doing PT twice a day. I mean, talking about they really transferred these soldiers, right? They went
must have felt like you were like in the freaking Olympics or something.
Oh, you are.
You go from like barely even eating any meat to now you're getting protein and you're training.
Indeed. It was like PT when they told us we got to exercise. I was like, you crazy? You're like, we can't do shit, right? But truly was very adoptable. Mm-hmm. When you started eating well, training, and we were really training. In the beginning, we found that it was all fun. In the first 3 days we were there, this was fun, right? Because we never seen an instructor, a drill instructor, get in the bus and scream the fuck out of you. This is this is new for us, right?
Yeah.
And we don't understand. We got in there in the bus, and then all of a sudden someone got in the bus and said, "Get the fuck out." And it's just some old white dude got in wearing a hat. And I still remember he's wearing a hat, looked like a cowboy hat.
Yeah.
And they all wear like a gray uniform. Mm-hmm. All wear, it was like a trainer uniform. And the guy came in, he said, "Get the fuck out of this bus." And we're just all looking like, the guy's mad, man. It's like, did someone piss him off in the front of the bus? We didn't know. And we all came out and they said, do push-ups. As soon as you got out. And we're looking like stones. They're like, oh, I can't do a push-up. We're like, do push-ups or we're going to fuck the shit out of you. And then truly, like, we all like went in the stones. And then they start grabbing people from the like collars. And they're like, you go there, you go there, you go here. It was like they were distributing you.
Yeah.
Base. And then, buses were pulling off. So they had people from the north, the south, and Baghdad. Mm-hmm. And the point was to mix each company from each side of the country.
Okay.
So we were Arabs that came from Baghdad. So they sent like 20 of us one side. And then the other 20 that followed us were not Arabs, were either Kurds or Shabak or other people we don't even speak their language. Yeah. That's how interesting it was.
Wow.
So it was my first time in my life seeing Northerners. I've never seen them. I never seen.
So you're like
Kurds.
all Iraqis, but maybe it would be like a New Yorker versus like someone from like Kentucky.
Oh, but it's still like it's someone who speaks a different language.
Yeah.
I mean, you're Arab, you speak Arabic, and then all of a sudden I heard people speaking Kurdish, right? I'm like, what the fuck? What's that? Yeah. And they don't speak Arabic, and they're looking at you, and you're looking at them, and like, you're in my company, dude. And they're like, hey. And they sent Kurds, and then I realized there was difference among them. There's Yazidis who are non-Muslim. I've never heard of this nation before. This is an ancient religion.
Wow.
And I was like, what the hell am I looking at? Where are people from? They look different. I was like, is there part of Iraq I don't know about? Like, and it's truly like they put us all together and you're just looking at it. So the Arabs are talking to one another, making fun of the guys. They're not Arabs. They're talking to one another. They're like, who the fuck? These are cannibal looking people, right? And we all just got stuck in there. And we all got to the company headquarters and we started eating and, well fed and interesting part either way, like Fast forward I'm talking about the guy that was on the line with the ripped off.
Yeah.
So his name is Jaleel. So the guy ended up serving with me. Me and the guy end up going to war together. Then we got pulled in the same unit back to Haifa Strait in Baghdad from the Anbar province. And we pulled in, and a lot of people heard in my story that we went to protect the recruiting center. That actually we got recruited.
Yeah.
So I was talking earlier that we were all having fun at the training base when we were going through basic for 3 days, and then the fun stopped. And the reason why the fun stopped after 3 days, there was another shipment that was supposed to make it, ended up dying.
So you're talking about a bus full of recruits.
Ended up not bus, so it was actually still in the line outside of the recruitment center.
Oh.
Died by a car bomb. So we were waiting after 3 days, all exciting, waiting for the last shipment to arrive. And we were told a car bomb just blew up. Not a lot of people made it.
So these are all volunteers waiting in line
to come in.
Basic training.
Yep, to get shipped.
They're all killed.
They all killed.
Wow.
And they said a car bomb blew up, hundreds of people dead. That's what we heard. And truly, that was the first time in training base you heard that, right?
Yeah, so now it's real.
It's on.
It's, yeah.
And you just kind of wondering, like when you heard that, they're like, no one is coming. And then I still remember this. There was like 3 people came in. 3. I don't know where the fuck
out of like how many do you think?
Probably 400.
So 400 people are volunteering for the army. 3 show up.
3 showed up. And I just remember the 3 was like horrified.
Yeah. Because they just saw all their buddies die.
And I asked, I said, what the hell's going on, man? He goes, dude, it's people dead everywhere. And he goes, they asked anybody at that time, does anybody still want to go? He said, nobody, everybody left. He said, we were only 3 people.
Wow.
That said, we still want to go after that car bomb blew up.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about a nation that never seen a fucking car bomb. That's the first time they seen a car bomb and what it does. And so people left and ran. These 3 guys that came in, I still remember I had a conversation with one of them. I said, dude, what's going on in there? And he goes, dude, it's bad. And he goes, that recruiting station? He goes, bad. And I just looked and I was like, fuck. And the way I was thinking is what's going to happen when this training is over?
Yeah.
And I'm about to come out of that gate. The way I entered that gate, the country was different.
Yeah.
The way I'm going to leave, it's going to be different.
Because after that many people get killed that are trying to volunteer, you probably have people like, they're not going to want to volunteer after that.
No. And then, and I'll tell you, man, it was like, we had a conversation with these trainers who are like Vietnam veterans, most of them. Mm-hmm. And truly, we went out to run for 7 kilometers. That's what we were doing. Mm-hmm. We were training every day. They were training us to run longer distance.
Right.
And we were running, and I think a few people were slowing down on the run. I mean, a lot of people were out of shape, and then it took us a while doing PT twice a day to build up. And they stopped us. And one of the trainers came in. He said, "You guys do realize when you come out of this gate, the amount of people you're going to fight. Do you have any idea what's going on right now in Baghdad? Do you have any idea?" We said, "No, we don't know. We're in the northern of the country near the Iranian borders on the mountains. That's where we're training."
Yeah.
"What's going on?" And he goes, "It's war." He goes, "The war just broke out." He goes, "There's an RPG flew into an Humvee on its way to Bayab. That was a big base." And he goes, "The war just broke out. You guys are going to come out here. You guys are going to fight."
Yeah.
And he goes, "There's not a lot of you. There's 100 and something of you." And he goes, "You guys are coming out to fight the whole country."
Wow.
"So if you're not ready for this, get the fuck out of here." That's what he said.
Did anybody leave?
2 people.
2. Okay.
Yeah. He said, anybody wants to leave, take your shit and leave. You are not coming out of here. You're eating steak every day, twice a day. You're doing PT. This is going to end. You're going to go to war. If you're not willing to do this, walk in. We will walk you to the gate. 2 people left. Okay. Left. They just picked up their shit, and we watched it. As you're standing in formation, people picked up their stuff. They put them in a car. Leave.
Wow.
And he came back, and I remember that. He said, "Is there anybody else want to leave?" And I was just all looking at each other, man, like, what do you want to do? Right? Yeah. And we just stuck there. And he goes, "If you guys are not going to take your training seriously, then leave." And I will never forget that. And he kind of pissed us off, right? He just really stepped on the butt, and he's like, "If you're not going to take this shit seriously, I don't want you to go out there and die.
Yeah.
So leave."
So party's over. You're training,
and
now.
you're really training, and it truly. We were like, "What the fuck is this?" Right? We were doing PT. We were pushing hard on PT.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're talking about if we were doing 25 push-ups, we started doing 75 push-ups.
Wow.
Started running. We started sprinting. We started doing long distance running. We started going to the range every other day.
Yeah.
So the range days were extremely getting every other day. You're in the range. We were doing a lot of rucking.
Mm-hmm.
We would ruck full supplies for freaking like 25 kilometers.
Wow.
Going around the mountains, bro, hard areas, walking with your equipment. So we truly is almost like you were training for the Olympics.
Yeah.
And the first time we heard mortar rounds, it was like after a month. We heard mortar rounds. We're like, what the fuck is that? Is that training? They said, no, it's not training. These are mortar rounds falling at the base.
So they were attacking the actual training grounds.
The training grounds. And they said, these are mortar rounds. And they were falling far away from us. There was a military base near where we were training. They were hitting the military base. They were hitting the U.S. Army base where the U.S. Army is staying.
Yeah.
And we were like outside of it. So they said, the base got attacked. This is what you're hearing is no training. This is real.
Wow.
And we just sat in there like literally talking to one another. Me and my buddy, and I was just saying like, dude, we're going to come out of here and we're going to fight the freaking people that we couldn't even look at. Think about it this way.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what one of us said. And it was someone who's a lot older than us have lived. And he goes, look how cool this is. You're going to come out of here. You're going to go shoot the person that you couldn't even look at in the face.
So you're actually kind of looking forward to like to confronting your bullies.
And it really is because that trainer, man, just kind of like woke something up inside of us.
Yeah.
That Vietnam veteran stood in there, older guy, and woke something in there. He's like, if you guys are not going to take this seriously, they're going to eat you alive out there. So if you're going to come out, you better be good. And that's the truth. That's what really he laid down in there. We're feeding you well. We're training you. And if you're not going to come out to be that good, you're not going to survive. And the truth is, it kind of woke something inside of us. Like, okay, I'm going to come out. I'm probably going to fight former Republican guards.
Mm-hmm.
And that's truly what we did.
Yeah.
We're going to come out. We're going to fight the elite of Saddam. And that's how we thought about it. And somebody older than us, he's like, look, your whole life, you couldn't look these people in the face. Most of us were actually political prisoners. Mm-hmm. A lot of people were in prison before, were considered criminals, bad people. And I'm going to go back to Jalil, the guy.
Jalil, yeah.
So we get deployed, we fight, we go back to Haifa Street fighting. And this is one of the interesting stories that I don't say a lot about guys.
Yeah.
So that guy was just not out there, right? And there's a few of us that don't go home because we live in Baghdad. We don't fucking go home.
Right.
We don't want to die.
Because if you go home, you put your whole family in danger.
Oh yeah, if you get captured and you're an Iraqi soldier back that time, they find an ID on you or something, that you'll die.
Yeah.
So
and they not only they kill you, they kill your whole family.
You're killing your whole family. So I didn't go home. People in Baghdad. He didn't go home. So we thought he's from Baghdad. He doesn't go home. So we go to protect the Iraqi recruiting center and defending the center. And the center was getting attacked every day for like once to twice a day. Mm-hmm. In the morning, they attack you by car bombs to make sure like the line that's coming up, or they attack you by suicide bullets. And at night, they come personnel. They come like 8 cars full of armed people. They'll come out and they'll attack the gate.
Wow.
And they will really do a hit and run kind of thing. Mm-hmm. They'll attack you, making you feel they're almost coming into you, to the barracks. Mm-hmm. And they don't. They just hit you and go. So what do? They know our response system is we're going to be there all of us going to come out, and then we're not going to sleep, and then we're going to get hit by a car bomb in the morning. So we're psychologically fucked. We don't sleep at all. Yeah. And this is all the real stuff going on. Mm-hmm. The funny thing is, we got attacked at night when we got there. And the attack was actually PKCs. You know what the PKC is, right?
Yeah.
It's like an M249 carried in hand. It's very heavy gun. It's fucking serious. You can fight a whole battalion with one of those.
It's like a very heavy rifle.
Heavy gun, yeah. It has a tape too. So it's a tape. It's like an M249
belt fed.
Yeah. It's like we call it tape. So they put the belt fed and they close it, and then that's how it goes. And it has like a 7,500 rounds, whatever magazines in it. And they will come in and they will open fire. We had 2 towers. They'll freaking open fire on the towers. Everybody in the tower will get down. They don't have any chance. Mm-hmm. And then they'll hit the gate.
Wow.
Where we're holding. So what we're doing is we're trying to protect the barracks behind the gate, pretty much. Like the people sleeping, the other soldiers. And it's like a shift turn. And this soldier I was talking about, he was not out there. He just didn't talk. He looked like disabled of some sort. Mm-hmm. And they attacked the gate, and all of us really went down. And this guy came out from behind a bunker and ran and started shooting towards them. So they usually attack, they hit, and us plus 8 American soldiers from the first cab will all go down, like behind the barriers, take cover. This guy just came out and shot at them. So that when he came close, they had to run. Perhaps one of these people ran away and left his PKC. Because he had the PKC, it's a gate, like a metal gate. He had it in between. He couldn't pull it. And he saw the guy coming. So he dropped it and ran. And we had a gun.
So Jalil's charging.
He charged at
like
the gate.
Like a crazy man.
Crazy motherfucker. We didn't know what the hell that guy... I mean, it was a miracle he didn't get shot in the face because they were shooting at him. And it was going by his head. And he's still going. But the closer he got, they're like, fuck, he's serious. He's coming.
Yeah.
And they ran. So they ran, they get on vehicles, and they drive away. This motherfucker crossed the gate with his gun.
Yeah.
And keep running after them.
He's chasing them.
So by the time we came out, and my buddies looked at me, and he goes, where's that motherfucker? Did they take him? Did they kill him? Is he dead? We thought he's dead. Like, we thought they shot him in the face. And we go out, we don't see him. Like, we don't see what the fuck is.
Yeah.
So we're like, they got him. And he was like, within 2 seconds, you look, he's walking like from distance.
He's coming back.
I think he ran like a mile. Chasing the cars. Wow. He shot at the cars as they were getting in the cars. They used to do this comfortably.
Yeah.
Shoot, hit and run, get in the cars and walk. Clearly, they don't have to be scared of anything. This motherfucker
he chases him down.
So he comes back, and one of my buddies goes, what the fuck? He's walking. He came back, and his head is all shooky, you know? And he came back, and he goes, I shot one of the vehicles in the trunk. I shot the trunk with 3 bullets. So my buddies goes, he's like, come on, bro. Have a seat. He's like, where do you live? He's like, where are you from? And he goes, you promise you guys won't, like, fire me. And I was like, no, nobody's going to fire you. Like, who the fuck are you, bro? Are you some ex-special forces? What's your story? And he said, do you guys know the psych hospital in Baghdad? And we're like, yeah. It's in Sadr City. It's a psych hospital. And it had a fucking 10-foot barriers with a razor wire on top of it. And he goes, I was a patient at the psych.
So he's like where people like dementia and stuff go.
He's psycho. He's fucking crazy. And I said, so how the fuck did you get out? And he goes, when the U.S. troops entered Baghdad, he said the guards ran away. And he goes, we were hungry. No one was giving us food anymore. So we're like, what did you do? He goes, I actually figured out a way to climb the 10-foot wall. And I laid on the razor wires and I fell over. And I said, is that why your dress was all ripped up? And he goes, yes, because I laid on the razor wire. And
so this dude gets out of the psych ward and joins the army.
Straight from the psych ward. And my buddy's looking at him as he told the story. And he was scared telling us the story. He's like, please don't tell anybody. I don't want to be fired. I ran from psych ward. And I looked at him, and my buddy looked at him. And he goes, we gave him a handgun and a rifle. Pretty fucking amazing, right? And it was just like, he's like, what the fuck? He goes, he goes, and my buddy's looking at me. He goes, you know, I'm gonna ask him to shoot the platoon leader, and he's just probably gonna do it. And it's truly that's how innocent that poor guy is. But it's funny that I would never. And I know we have to close on this. One of the things he did, he was not out there, like completely not out there. And I'm talking about the guy was crazy. One of the crazy stories he did is in the barracks when I go to sleep. Mm-hmm. It's like it used to be a hotel for a pilot because it was like an airport basically where we were. And we sleep like a hotel pretty much looking thing. Yeah. It has like hallway. He would take the fucking the trash bin and he would drive. I'll drive the trash bin in the hallways. And you will hear, like you're asleep in your room in the barracks, and you would hear someone going like, and you're like, it sounds like a child playing with cars. And you come out and you see the dude driving the trash bin. And the soldiers, every soldier is outside of the room laughing their ass off. Right? And they started actually doing like, what do you call it? Like they started putting objects.
Like a
zigzag
like obstacle course.
Obstacle course. So they started putting objects saying you gotta avoid the object you're going by. And you'll see him coming through the hallway like really fast. And he's going zigzag. And he was just looking, I was like, and he has a gun, right? Like, and my buddy goes, I wonder if I asked him to shoot the lieutenant. He was just like, go ahead and shoot him, right? And it was like, that's how you look at that. In 2004, you're going through the most brutal year of the fight in the surge. This was the most brutal year of the Iraq War. This is the year where you face people combat face to face.
Yeah.
This is where it really got hand to hand. And during that year, you're watching that dude, and you're like, what? He's like, if I die, I'm going to fucking die happy because look at this motherfucker doing it. He's going in zigzags. And the dude was completely bald and had veins coming through his... He doesn't look like...
You got to watch out for those bald guys. They're crazy.
He's the way he looks, like he has no teeth. And just the way he looks, and he's like so innocent. You talk to him as like a child, and you look at him, and you were like, if you told the commander, look, this guy ran from psych ward, they would freak out, right? They were like, he has a gun, and had a gun. And we were just laughing, right? So when you left him at the checkpoint, I actually felt safe.
Yeah.
So I assigned him on an opposite shift of mine. So actually, when I'm asleep, he's in the front gate. Mm-hmm. And it's funny, one of my buddies was joking with me back then, and when he's at the gate, and he goes, do you believe there's any crazy motherfucker is going to want to break this gate while Jalil is in it? He's like, there's no way anybody is going to want to come through. And he truly scared them. Every time they attacked us after that, they were extremely careful.
Yeah.
They never, ever expected anybody to come out. And return fire. And he scared the shit out of them, and they had to change their style of attacking the gate because of him.
That's great.
And that's why he's like, you can sleep fine because he's in there in the front. He goes, look at him, bro. Look how focused he is. And he's like sitting in there. And we left him in the front. Mm-hmm. And we're like, if he dies, he dies, right? Yeah. We're like, he has nowhere to go, right? And we just put him in the front, and they truly like, you felt safe.
Yeah.
And it was the most psycho you have in the unit. You felt safe that I could go to sleep for 3 hours and wake up and go back to another shift. But it was such a magical time, man. These are the stories you enjoy.
Mm-hmm. Do you know if he made it through?
He ended up leaving the Iraqi military a couple of years later.
So he could still be alive today.
He could be alive. When they came in later on, man, they kind of didn't want him around.
Yeah.
He was not out there.
Yeah. That's incredible.
I mean, he did his job. He was a great soldier.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah.
Did his job. He was a great soldier. He had a hard time understanding where the briefs are and following rules. We did raids. He threw someone from the top of the building. And it wasn't the person we were trying to arrest. It was his neighbor.
Wow.
It was like mess with him. And a lot of my friends love this story of Jalil, right? Jalil is like, they asked me to make a shirt after him, right? The bald guy he was. Yeah. And I actually have a picture of Jalil searching a car while I'm standing watching.
Wow. I'd like to see
and I have a picture of him, like his head right in between the engine. Like he's literally like looking through the car. I mean, he was so good at what he does. Like he was so passionate about it, right? And to him, all this Iraqi military war to him meant nothing but food. Mm-hmm. He can get a good meal. That's all he cared about.
Wow.
Yeah, he's like, I eat better than the psych hospital. I was hungry.
That's
I couldn't get enough food.
Yeah.
I was like, and it's like shit from the movies, man. You look at it, you got this unit, and you got this guy Brandon Array from Psych standing there, and majority people who've been to prison, former criminals, people who are former or against the law, people who are against the government. And if I say I have met the most interesting individuals I've ever met in my life, it was during that year. I met some people that are freaking, man, magical, right? Yeah. I've met political prisoners. I met people who's been lost their family members. I've met people who are a lot older than me that have been through shit for a long time. Yeah, and it's really when you realize that you really are the least harmed among these others. I mean, some people, I still have a member, he died a year later. Actually, he was killed in action. Had tubes here in his neck, and he couldn't the breathing tubes was replaced. And I asked him, I said, why is there's a big scar on his face all the way down his neck? And they said it was from torture.
Oh, wow.
He was tortured horrifically. And that guy was fighting in that unit, man.
Yeah.
And that's why when you look at it, you're like, it's nothing. I am nothing. I can't even say anything that I'm compared to these people. Yeah. And these people are there fighting for the freedom, man. They're fighting for one thing they lived their whole life for, is to be able to say what they want, right? And they gave so much for it. Some of them gave their wives, gave their parents, their brothers, and it was just a magical moment, man. Like some of the most legends I have met during that year. And after they passed away for a year or two, and you think, you're like, I can't believe I lived to see that guy, right? I can't believe I lived to see such a people. The people that I had, it was stories that are like insane, man.
Incredible.
Had a doctor. A guy that was a doctor. He was a sergeant fighting with us. He was a medical doctor.
He gave up his whole profession.
His everything. He was a doctor, man. He was a professor too.
Wow.
And his wife and child was executed.
Man.
Yeah. And he was in there fighting. And he had no interest of anything in life other than being there. And it was just the stories you hear, man. You're like, what the fuck? Right? Yeah. Like we had some people who are extremely educated. High degrees. I mean, I was only 17, 18 years old, man, at that time. And you're looking at other people who was like born in the 60s and the 70s that showed up and told you, I've been through the Iraq War. I've been through all the shit. Like I have been through blood my whole life. And truly, it was a magical moment, man. I'm talking about these people truly established this generation in Iraq that's free right now doing whatever it's want. These are the people that made it happen. These are the people that went out and just fought so hard and stab people in the face to make sure that others can live. Yeah. And we can go through this in our next segment. The stories are limited, bro.
Yeah, I look forward to pursuing this further because I feel like we covered a lot of topics today that would never show up in your documentary.
No. This is like
really great, man.
This is interesting. And I really need to do something to honor Jalil. And I need to do something.
That guy sounds incrable. I would have loved to have seen him.
Jalil is like, no alcohol's needed, brother. You had the fun.
Crazy.
Yeah, and it was like really interesting individuals that you met that year, and I would pay. There was no movie ticket in the world, not even Top Gun, will give you the entertainment. The shit that you saw in 2004, right? Like everybody think about combat and the bad stuff you went through.
Yeah.
And then you think about some of these moments, the enjoyable moments that you actually witness. You'd be like, what the, how lucky I was to actually witness this.
You know, and through your documentary, I know about the things that you've seen.
Yeah.
And so for you to characterize it that way is incredible.
Yeah.
I feel like we could probably continue this interview, maybe even weeks or months on time.
Yeah.
But truly, Hamody.
Yeah.
As an American veteran.
Yeah.
I on behalf of American freedom-loving citizens everywhere, I do want to thank you for your service.
Thank you, man.
And the amount of things that you've even sacrificed and things that you've put at risk, your own family. Yeah. And how many years it's been since you saw your own family because you decided to be on the side of right and combat evil.
It's all depend on decision making, man. Yeah. I think decision making is really what makes people different.
Absolutely.
That's what I believe. It's the decisions you make that can impact the rest of your life. And I am so glad that at such a young age, at a stupid age, that I could have made a lot of stupid decisions. I made some of the good decisions that led to changing my life.
So fortunately, you had enough wisdom to choose the right side.
Yeah, definitely.
You could have chosen to not fight. You could have chosen to just stand back and see what happens.
Yeah.
But you chose to fight. You chose to confront the evil that opposed you.
Yeah.
And
you also
you became one of the highest valued American assets against that evil regime.
And you also have to feel it's not that you're just different than others. It's actually the environment that you live in makes you who you really are.
Yeah.
In my book, I'm always an average person in Iraq. Yes, I became this G.I. Joe, this spy, this guy that went after bad guys. And I was really battling some of the scariest some of the scariest individuals you will ever meet in your life. I stood 5 feet away from some of the most dangerous Al-Qaeda operative you will ever see.
Yeah, pure evil.
And pure evil. Scary what they could do to you. And to me, at that point, I was numb. I really felt like I didn't give a shit anymore what happens to me, right? And I just felt like at a point is you have to stand up to them.
Yeah.
And I made them think in a certain way about me that's the way it went. But you think about it, truly, it's the environment that I lived in that made me who I was. And when you live in such environments that are really tough, strong, and they make you somebody.
Yeah.
You know, I do feel at this age and era that I live in now that I might not be the same person that I was when I was in Iraq. That environment changed me and made me somebody that I was, not. So
and I admire the courage that it took to stand up against evil.
Yeah.
And I would say if anyone took something away from this story is if you're going through a hard time and maybe you're being bullied at school, or maybe
there's ways.
Stand up against it. Choose the right thing and do the right thing and your life will be better for it. And the amount of lives that you have impacted positively and you have changed. If you had not joined the Iraqi army, we could have been facing a completely different thing today.
Yeah, we could have gone through a very different thing.
So I encourage everyone to look at your story, check out your book, check out your Amazon movie, The Terrorist Whisperer. You can find all of those things at theterroristwhisperer.com.
And you can go to my Instagram page and find all the links in there.
Absolutely.
Ladies and gentlemen, until we see you guys again on the Black Side Show, thank you for being with us.
Thank you.